Hey guys, it's Sam, and welcome to Caps Lock, a podcast designed to help you live bigger, better, louder, and longer. Before we get started, I just want to thank you guys for listening and for giving this a chance and for coming here in pursuit of your best self. This is a space where we are going to grow together, and my hope is that it helps you go forward confidently, unapologetically, and with purpose. It's time to live your life in Caps Lock. If that mission feels aligned for you, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and let's dive in. Y'all, I just got in on the train and exited through the vestibule, and there was a hurt pigeon in the vestibule. I was in tears on the phone. I called 311. That's what you call instead of 911 when there's a hurt animal or something. And he wasn't in total distress. He wasn't having a freak out. He wasn't even bothering anyone. There was just this little corner of it, and he was parked there, and you could just tell he was standing on one leg and he couldn't fly. And everyone was just walking past him, and I was legitimately in tears. So I called 311, and the reason I'm telling you this is because if you're in New York City and you see a hurt animal or a sick animal, you call 311 and you just stay on the line. None of the menu options are for you. And you can say, there's a voice option, and you say, what's your problem? And I was animal, I don't know. And they have an animal line and they'll send you to the right person. And so I called, and the team is going to pick him up. But I just literally burst into tears and stood there for 15 minutes to make sure nobody got near him. I don't know, guys. It was really rough. So that's traumatizing. What else is happening? Not me with all my product placement by accident in this episode today. I normally don't really have stuff on the desk while I do episodes, but I'm feeling fragile because of the pigeon. And so I'll tell you about the products I have just because I know people will ask. This is the body of my Ninja Blend Boss. It's a blender, and I'm obsessed with it. The blender's really good. But more importantly, the body of the blender is this tumbler that I drink my water out of. And so this cap comes off, and you put on the blades and pop it upside down, and it's a blender. And part of what's cool about that is because it's a blender, it's totally spill proof. I'm tipping it all the way upside down right now and nothing is coming out. It's pretty cool. And then you just pop open the top and it's water. Anyway, it has ounce markers on the side, which I love. So the total for this is 26 ounces. I try to drink a minimum of 100 ounces of water every day. And so if I just pop back 4 of these, I'm good. And then the other thing I have on the desk today is this Paula's Choice Pro Collagen Peptide Gloss Balm. It's a pretty sticky lip balm, to be honest, which is usually not my favorite thing, except that it's freezing and windy in New York already. And so what I love about this is it is total protection. It doesn't come off your lips. I'll put it on before I record an episode, and it's still on after, even though I've been talking for 60 minutes. And it comes in, this one that I'm holding right now is clear, but the other one I also have has a little pink tint. So I really like it. And if you're an avid listener of Caps Lock, you know that the Paula's Choice Pro Collagen Peptide line is something I love. They do a Paula's Choice Pro Collagen Peptide face moisturizer, and it's kind of like a gel moisturizer, and I literally love it, but it's just the tiniest bottle, and I went through it, and I'm not even kidding you, I think 2 weeks, and it cost $38. So I was I'm probably gonna not be doing that on a regular basis, to be honest. My more expensive moisturizers, I feel like they last longer, but I just loved it. I was slathering it all over. Anyway, that's my product placement today. Lol, not sponsored. Let's talk about a couple of updates, because last week when I meant to give you updates, I was espresso depresso. So what's cool is that next week is the 1-year anniversary of Caps Lock, which is mind-blowing to me. I can't believe last December I started a podcast, and now all of you sit here on your Sunday morning. Sit here is not the right word. Sorry. We're grocery shopping. We're meal prepping. We're cleaning the house. We're at the gym. We're on a hot girl walk. Whatever you're doing. Or maybe you are sitting. I just can't believe that now a bunch of you are sitting here listening to me is the point I'm trying to make. And as a little special fun treat, I'm bringing on my boyfriend. So William will be joining us. A lot of you guys just love to talk about relationships, and I know you know a lot of my personal story and, like, my healing journey, and we were just talking about it, and I was like, "I just feel like the girlies be asking about you," and he was like, "Sure," and I was like, "Will you come and talk to them on the pod?" So, to that point, I'll be posting a question box on my Instagram story, probably the day you're hearing this, on Sunday, and you can ask any questions you want. We're just gonna be cozy here on the couch and chat with you guys, and it'll be a fun episode because it's right after Thanksgiving. And so he and I will actually be with my family in Florida, at our place in Florida. We're gonna be golfing with my parents. And so that'll be really fun. Another update related to this update is that if you listened to my episode a couple weeks ago with Suzy Welch from Becoming You, Suzy has her own podcast called Becoming You. And William and I actually went on it because she was saying that after people do the Values Bridge quiz, which is the quiz that I took and we went through on the show, you can take it. There's a free version and a paid version. I think the paid version is worth it, in my opinion. It's not that expensive, and you get like more comprehensive stuff out of it. But she said something she sees all the time is after people take the quiz, they call their partner and they're like, you have to take this and we have to compare our results. So she's doing this kind of version of Becoming You where instead of going through one person's results on her podcast, she will bring a couple on and go through their results. So she did it with Erin Leachy from Housewives of New York and her husband, Abe. And then she called me because we had such a great time here on Caps Lock a couple weeks ago. And she was like, I'd love for you and William to come on. So we did. And we had so much fun and it was fabulous. And you should definitely tune in. I think that's going live around Thanksgiving as well. So stay tuned for that. And then this is the last update, but it's so kind of random. We have some new shows that we're watching. The first one is Pluribus. And if you haven't heard of this show, it is on Apple TV Plus. No, sorry, Apple TV. I don't really know the difference. And Prime Video. It's really good. I love it. The word pluribus is Latin and it means many or from many. And I looked this up because the concept of this show, if you don't know, it is so weird. Basically, this woman is out in the world and everyone is around her starts having a seizure. And she's like, this is fucking insane. Like, what's going on? And then she goes outside and everyone outside is having a seizure and like can't move and like can't talk. It's crazy. And then when they all wake up, they have hive mind and like everyone's so happy and placid except for her. It's crazy. Anyway, it's kind of like a dark comedy. It's basically like The Good Place, but like a little darker and a little bit more cinematic, I think. But if you watched The Good Place and you liked it, you're going to love this show. The other show we started is Wayward. Wayward is, I believe, on Netflix. Let's see. Yeah, it's on Netflix and it's Toni Collette. And I just love Toni Collette. So like that's huge for me. Great day for me. And it's about this school for troubled teens that's like low-key evil and spooky. Love that. I fell asleep watching it, so William finished an episode, and then I was like, just go ahead and watch it because let's be real, I'm not catching up to you. So now I'm going to go home over Thanksgiving. I'm going to make my mom watch episode 1, and then I'm going to watch the rest with her. And then the third show we started, and this is because these are all like weekly release type shows, some of them, is also on Netflix, and it's called Black Rabbit. And if you know me IRL, you know that I love Smartless with Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett. And so I'm a big Jason Bateman fan. And this show is Jason Bateman as like the fuck up brother and Jude Law as like the has it together brother. But Jude Law's also doing some sketchy shit and they get into a bunch of trouble. They like own a bar together and they get into trouble with some bad guys. And it's great. Jude Law is so hot. Bateman looks homeless in it, but that's like part of the bit. Anyway, those are great shows that we're watching right now. They're very boyfriend friendly. William likes them as well. So great vibes and really good going to Thanksgiving to have a show, in my opinion. Anyway, before we do today's episode, I'm just going to issue like a little trigger warning. You probably know from the episode title, we're going to be talking about food and calories today and tracking and counting them. If that doesn't feel right for you, skip this episode. That's totally cool. Go back and listen to an episode you've missed, or you could log off if you want. I'm going to miss you, but you can log off if you want because that's number one is your mental health. But we're not talking about it in a way that I'm like, you should count your calories to lose weight. I'm actually going to talk about how you should count your calories and macros mostly to gain muscle and gain weight. And I'm honestly not even trying to incentivize you to do this. It's just about like, I don't know, this is kind of a fucked up product of our world, but like a lot of times, if you ask me, I'm trying to do something with my body. You know what I mean? Like most people are not just like good with how their body looks and feels. And even less about looking and more about feeling. But a lot of us, I think, feel that way about how it looks too. Anyway, before I tell you my goals, like the reason that I am interested in tracking my macros and calories and why I personally wanted to do this episode, I just want to say that this episode is for anyone who's interested in using diet, exercise, and lifestyle choices to achieve a physical goal. It could be weight loss, weight gain, muscle building, body recomposition. It could have nothing to do with what you look like. You could be looking to increase your muscle mass for longevity or for improved bone density. Like, there are so many reasons you might want to do this. And so I do understand if it's triggering to be like calorie counting, that kind of stuff. And if that's the case, feel free to sign off. And I love you. And I'll see you next week with William. So definitely tune back in. But I used to think that this would trigger me, and actually I have found it to be really peaceful because I used to like track my calories and what I was eating to eat less and to be skinny and to lose weight. And now it's kind of healing to do it with a goal in mind of gaining weight, gaining muscle, getting stronger, being healthier. It's kind of like, you know, that whole thing how like girls call each other bitch because guys used to call women bitch and that was fucked up. And so we took ownership of it. And now bitch is like like a term of endearment instead of an insult. It's kind of like that. I feel like I've taken ownership of counting my food and like tracking what I eat. And instead of using it to make my body smaller, I'm using it to feel stronger and more powerful and be healthier. So it's been really healing for me, actually. And that is the end of the trigger warning. And I just wanted to say it because I don't want to risk anyone feeling a type of way about it. But if you think it could possibly help on your journey to healing your relationship with food and your body and exercise, please stick around because I think it's really interesting. That said, I'm doing a thing called a bulk. And essentially that just means I'm intentionally gaining weight with the goal of building muscle mass. Like I'm not just trying to like put on fat. My goal is to get fucking jacked. If you build your muscle mass, you will improve your metabolism. You can maintain your strength and mobility as you get older, which are very, very important to me. In my personal experience, the moment an old person stops being able to move around comfortably is the moment they sign their own death sentence. Muscle mass reduces insulin resistance. In other words, it makes you more insulin sensitive, which reduces the risk of chronic inflammation and illnesses like diabetes and other illnesses that come out of that chronic inflammation. Muscle mass supports healthy cardiovascular functioning, it stimulates the release of endorphins, it lowers your risk of dementia and cognitive decline, it increases your likelihood of longevity, it supports your hormones and fertility. Plus, I want to look fucking ripped. Like I've said it once, I will say it again. In my opinion, it is totally okay to have a goal of looking a certain way. And my preference, obviously, is that you are doing things that are healthy for your body and mind. Do I want you to go all 90s heroin chic like Kate Moss? Not particularly, but I think you're allowed to want to look a certain way. Like I think it's kind of crazy when people are like, people will villainize you for wanting to lose weight or like do something with your body, but then they'll like go get a nose job or like dye their hair. And it's kind of like we're all doing the same thing. And I actually kind of went through that when the Ozempic boom first started. Like everyone started doing Ozempic. And I had to reflect on why that was bothering me. And I think it was like rooted in jealousy, which was rooted in insecurity about my own body. And so I was like all kind of puff chest about like, oh, you're just doing it the easy way, blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, I'm over here like, oh my God, if you want a nose job, like go get your nose done or go get your tits done or like whatever, like so supportive. So I have kind of, I think, unpacked that. And after doing my episode with Dr. Paulvin a couple episodes ago, so go back and listen if you haven't, it's fascinating. My episode with him about GLP-1s They actually have a ton of health benefits they're still, like, obviously doing a lot of studies and publishing research on it just because they've been using these drugs for diabetes and adjacent to diabetes, like, health-related weight loss for a long time, so they have that information, but it hasn't really just been used for cosmetic reasons, and so now they're seeing all these ancillary benefits with the more people that are using them. They're getting, like, these huge data samples. It takes forever to pay for that research and to conduct it and to publish it, so it's not all out yet, but he was like, "We've actually been using these drugs for a kinda long time, and they, like, do really good things." So now I'm kinda like, "Do the Ozempic, girl, like, hit that shit." Like, should I do it? Not for weight loss, obviously, but it's interesting, like, it's good for your cartilage health, like, it's good for fertility, it's good for reducing inflammation throughout the body, not just in the form of weight gain. Anyway, listen to that episode, but all of that is to say, like, I think it's okay to wanna look a certain way, and I want you to do things that are healthy for you, so, like, I don't really want you to idealize unrealistic, unhealthy, unattainable beauty standards, but I'm allowed to wanna get jacked like a muscle mommy, so, if you have a problem with that, leave me alone. Basically, I'm going for, like, muscle mommy light. Like, not quite bodybuilder because I have really broad shoulders and broad rib cage, and that makes me feel very, like, kind of masculine and broad. Totally fine if that's your jam. It's just not mine. But I want, like, very toned and muscular arms. I want you to see the muscles in my arms, not just have skinny arms. I want visibly muscular, defined, strong quads. I wanna keep my abs defined, and frankly, I just want a fat ass. Like, so basically those are my goals right now, and, like, I wanna be stronger, I wanna live longer, I wanna do all those things, and so if you can do all those things in one, why wouldn't you? Anyway, I have just yapped and yapped. Like I said, I'm on a bulk, and while we will absolutely do a whole episode on just bulking, where I'm gonna bring personal trainers and maybe a nutritionist or a dietitian, I'm still working on putting together the group so that we can have a well-rounded conversation. But today we are gonna focus on one very specific thing that applies not just to the bulking crowd, but also to the weight loss crowd, the weight gain crowd, the whatever, the metabolic health crowd, like any reason that you might wanna use food, diet, lifestyle to make changes in the health or appearance of your body, it's for everybody. And that specific thing that we are doing today is to learn how to track our macros and our calorie intake. Obviously, if you follow this podcast, you know that working out is not even half the equation for your health. It is literally a fraction. And I think everybody thinks that your muscles are built in the gym, but the truth is your muscles, like when everyone says like your abs are built in the kitchen, it's true, but not in the triggery weight loss sense. It's true because you cannot build muscle unless you're eating enough food and the right kinds of food. And there are several other factors at play when you're trying to build muscle too. Your genetics, your hormones, your sleep, underlying health conditions, your nutrition, like all kinds of stuff. It's not just working out and it's not just food. And on all of these fronts, there's a lot of really firm, solid, universal truth in the world. Like you can look something up and get the answer, and it's the same on every website. Too much cortisol causes inflammation. Ultra processed foods are bad for you. Your muscles require rest in the form of rest days and also good quality sleep to repair themselves and to grow, right? Like you can just look those things up and you can find 10 studies that say the same thing and cite the same sources. But one thing that I have found to be so unclear and so difficult to nail down is how on earth to calculate accurate macros and calories for your goals. Like every time you go online, they're like, "Oh, are you a woman in like who's like moderately active? Eat 2,000 calories a day." Like, what do you mean? Every single thing about our health and our lives and our bodies is completely different from one another. Like, what do you mean eat 2,000 calories a day? Like, that's just gonna work for everyone. And there are all kinds of different calculators where you can put in your age, your height, your current weight, all this stuff. But like the websites are so sketchy. I have no idea if those calculators are reliable, if they like what methods they're using. Like, are they using BMI? Because we kind of know that BMI is bullshit. Like, if you're just telling me your height and your weight, you could be 100% made of fat or you could be 100% made of muscle. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know anything about your body composition, anything about your health from your BMI. So, like, if those calculators are using BMI as an index and as a reference point for the rest, like, I just don't. I just don't believe that I'm entering all my information and it's spitting out a number and it's like accurate. You know what I mean? And then they make you enter your email to see your test results, and then you get your test results and you could put in the same information on every calculator and every single result will come back different. And I know this because as soon as I started bulking, this is the first thing I did. And my range was like, someone was like, you should eat 2,000 calories, and one was like, you should eat 2,600 calories. And that doesn't sound like that big a difference, like 600 calories. It was like, I actually think the lowest was like in the 1,900 range. Anyway, like 700 calories is a major fucking difference. And if you're actually trying to achieve a goal, that could totally mess you up. So I was like, this is not what I need it to be. And the reason that sucks is because it's actually like your macros are and your calories are one of the most important and majorly impactful parts of your muscle building journey. And if you don't do it right, you can obviously like fuck up your progress, right? Like if you overshoot your fat window by even like 10, 15, 20 grams, you're gonna completely mess up what you're trying to do. Like it's more fragile than you want it to be. Like it's not as like cash. But also it could be bad for your health, right? Like we need to think about our cholesterol. We need to think about our colons. We need to make sure we're also getting enough fiber. You know what I mean? Like this trend of like protein maxing, all that is not always just good. So I really think it's important for us each to do our own individual calories and macros instead of just listening to someone else, because tell me why colon cancer is rising in people in their 20s and 30s. Absolutely not. And then I also just feel like a lot of people, when they're like, oh, I've literally tried everything and I'm not seeing results, it's because they think they're doing everything right and they're literally just not. They're just not getting the right amounts of food. And a lot of times they're not getting enough food. So, like I said, I tried about 800 of these calculators. I also watched a million TikToks. I read as much research as I could find about the topic. And today, I'm going to tell you everything I've learned and compiled about counting your macros and calories from these various sources to give you the most comprehensive information I possibly can. And I'm going to break it down so clearly for you. And it's literally 4 steps. But the internet makes it seem so like it took me hours to get all of this information out in a way that is so clear, step by step. You can do it alongside me. And at first it might seem confusing, but I'm literally going to define everything and then say it over and over. You're going to be able to stay with me. So if you want to just listen and kind of like understand the vibes first, listen to this episode, just enjoy the ride. But if you want, you can also put in your own height and weight and do these equations for yourself while we're sitting here today so that you don't have to do it by yourself. For full transparency, as you know, I am not a personal trainer or a nutritionist or dietitian. I'm just a girl. But the information that I used to write this episode is cited in the show notes, and I worked really hard to make sure every single source has credibility, whether that's someone has an education or a license or a certification, or it's an accredited research institution, or it's published in the National Library of Medicine, or like whatever it is. And this is information that I'm using to inform my personal journey and goals and to grow my own muscles. So let's do it. And if you haven't yet, feel free to pull up your notes app or a pen and paper so you can follow along. I prefer like a pen and paper or like a computer and then use my phone as a calculator. So totally up to you. But I'm going to say like, I'm going to explain everything, literally read you equations that you can use to calculate your specific calories and macros, and it's going to be great. The first step in determining your macros is to pick a goal. This episode is brought to you by Whoop. Whoop is the only wearable that turns your health and fitness data into personalized guidance. I've been wearing my Whoop for over 2 years now, and I can confidently say that the new model is legitimately an amazing upgrade. The new device is 7% smaller than the previous model, and the new battery lasts for 2 full weeks before you need to recharge. But those aren't even my favorite features. Between tracking for women's cycles and hormones, determining your physiological age and pace of aging, and heart health features like on-demand blood pressure and ECG readings, the new Whoop is designed to improve your longevity and could literally be a lifesaver. And now, for the first time, Whoop Advanced Labs connects over 65 key biomarkers like thyroid-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, and cortisol with more than 100,000 daily health data points. When you schedule a lab test, you don't just get numbers. You get clarity on what's happening inside your specific individual body, including insights to your hormones, metabolism, and recovery, plus a clear action plan to start improving your health. You know how I feel about my health, proactive and preventative. And the new Whoop is my number one teammate in wellness. Join now at join.whoop.com/Samantha Fair. That's join.whoop.com/Samantha Fair. Why you are doing all of this in the first place. And like I said, there are a ton of options here, and not all of them are about the way you look on the outside. You might want to count your calories and macros for weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance, not gaining or losing, muscle gain, body recomposition, which would be gaining fat and losing muscle, or gaining muscle and losing fat based on your preferences and the season of life you're in. Better workout performance. You could count your macros and calories to avoid undereating, to avoid overeating, to learn more about your eating patterns, to be consistent in your diet. Millions of reasons. Today, we are just going to use muscle gain as the example for today's episode, because for a couple of reasons. Like, one, we should all be doing it, probably, is like, let's get strong, girls. But also because I'm doing it, and I'm more than happy to tell you guys my height and weight and my goals. And that way you can see a concrete example of like what a realistic set of numbers would look like, and you can like see me do the math. So like I said, feel free if you want to enter your own numbers and choose your own goals, and I'll tell you how to do that too. So step 1 is pick your goal. Step 2, see, we're already on step 2, and there's only 4, so like we got this. Step 2 is probably the hardest step, and that is to calculate what is known as your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure. And this is basically the number of calories your body burns just staying alive. And it's pretty much based on 3 factors. Number 1 is your resting metabolic rate, your RMR. I'm going to say RMR for probably the rest of the episode because there's so much going on in like the acronyms of it all. But your resting metabolic rate makes up about 60 to 75% of your total daily energy expenditure. So the vast majority of it. And this is the energy required to keep your body functioning, all the systems moving and grooving, while you're fully at rest. Like you're laying down in your bed awake, you're barely doing anything at all. That is your RMR, is the energy that is required to keep your body alive. The second factor in your TDEE is the thermic effect of food. And that is just the energy it takes you to chew, swallow, digest, absorb food, store food in your body. It is basically your obligation, like once there's food in your mouth, what you have to do to get it down. This is about 10% of your TDEE. So now we're at like 70 to 85% of your total daily energy expenditure. And then the third factor for your TDEE is the thermic effect of physical activity. And this is the energy you spend doing any activity, whether it's exercise or any physical activity at all, including like non-exercise activity thermogenesis, if you want to call it that, which is like, the acronym is NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So anything you're doing to move your body like on purpose. It's standing, fidgeting your hands, moving around, walking, all the way up to like kettlebell swings, high rocks. Do you know what I mean? Like it's any movement that's not just like being alive and chewing, swallowing, digesting food. And that's about 15 to 30% of your TDEE. So all 3 of those add up to 100%. That's what makes up your total daily expenditure of your energy. Now, for most people, we've already run into like our first problem, because you're telling me 60 to 75% of your total daily energy expenditure is the energy required to keep your body alive while it's resting. Okay, how much is that? What do you mean? How many calories do I burn just staying alive? Because obviously that's different for everybody. So how do we figure out how many calories we burn just staying alive? Great question. Turns out it's actually so difficult and expensive to figure out. It's very time consuming. So to make it accessible to normal people, like I said earlier, a bunch of different organizations have basically created these online calculators to help you figure it out. But since we aren't totally sure which ones are legit, My personal preference, as always, is to go with the published, peer-reviewed research papers and do the math myself instead of basing it on generalizations and estimates. Because, like I said, 400, 600 calories, 10 grams of fat, 20 grams of protein, all of those things can make a major, major difference in your progress toward your goals. And so why would I just leave it up to some website that knows my height and weight and be like, how many calories do I burn? It's not that simple. The most widely favored equation for determining your resting metabolic rate, your RMR, is called the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation, and it is as follows. I'm going to read you the men's version and the women's version. So if you want to do this for your man or you are a man, this is for all of us. So for men, I'm literally going to read every single thing so that you get this in order. In parentheses, so you're going to write parenthesis, you're going to multiply your weight in kilos by 10. This is for men. Multiply your weight in kilos by 10 and put that in parentheses. Outside of those parentheses, put the plus sign and then another set of parentheses. And then you're going to multiply your height in centimeters by 6.25. Okay. Then minus sign because we're going to subtract. Now a third set of parentheses, you're going to multiply your age by 5 and then close that parentheses. And then a plus sign because we're going to just add 5 to the end, plus 5. So it's parenthesis, 10 times your weight in kilos, close parenthesis, plus parenthesis, 6.25 times your height in centimeters, close parentheses, subtract, minus, parentheses, 5 times your age, close parentheses, plus 5. That's for men. The Mifflin-St. Jeor equation for women, it's almost identical. The only difference is what we're putting on the end. So men added 5. We are just going to subtract 161. Oh my God, are you calling me skinny? What do you mean they're adding 5 and I'm subtracting 161? Okay, cute. So for women, it is one set of parentheses, 10 times your weight in kilos. Outside the parentheses, put the plus sign. Another set of parentheses, 6.25 times your height in centimeters, close parentheses, minus 5 times your age in years, minus 161. So we're going to use my pre-bulking numbers so that you can see how I calculated my initial bulk. My weight before bulking was 115.4 pounds. So in kilos, that's 52.3 kilos. And my height is 5 feet and 4 inches. So in centimeters, that's 162.6 centimeters. So we're going to multiply my weight, 52.3 times 10. And that comes out to 523. And my height, 162.6 by 6.25. And that is 1,016.25. If you are doing this math for yourself, feel free to pause the pod, do your math, and then keep going. After you get those numbers, you will multiply your age minus 28 by 5. So that is 140. And then once the equation is simplified, the equation is 523 plus 1,016.25 minus 140 minus 161. So for me, my resting metabolic rate, the number of calories I burn literally just being alive, not eating, not moving, no exercise, nothing. My resting metabolic rate, my RMR, is 1,238.25. Now, the reason I'm saying this so loud and being so pedantic about it is because a lot of my life I have heard, I don't know from where, I guess from diet culture, from like the world. I've heard of women trying to eat 1,200 calories per day, like as an extreme weight loss diet measure. So I want you to hear what I said. My resting metabolic rate is before I eat any food at all, digest anything, even lift a finger. Just to be alive, my body needs 1,238.25 calories. So I don't want to hear nothing about you eating 1,200 calories. That is fucked up. That is disordered thinking, and we are getting out of that padded room and straitjacket. We're out. Now, the Mifflin-St. Jeor equation has a small margin of error, around 10%, because like we said earlier, in two people with the same height and weight, like one might have just like different proportions. One might have more body fat. The other might have more muscle mass. Like you don't really know everything based on your BMI, like your height and weight, and your age. However, among all the different published and available and widely used and accepted equations, this one is the most accurate. So it's the one that most serious people are using these days if they're doing the math on their own. Now, after you've calculated your resting metabolic rate, your RMR, which by the way, I want to say some people call it BMR. So if you see BMR on like some of these calculators, that's just your basal metabolic rate. It's the same thing. So after you've calculated your BMR or your RMR, you're just going to adjust it by your level of daily activity. And that would be classified as like how much you move around throughout the day, including regular movement like walking and picking things up, as well as intentional exercise. The scale is a little bit vague here in my opinion, but it is widely used and accepted as like the model for doing this equation. So you're just going to pick your category and you're going to use it and try to be realistic. Like I think what happens is a lot of people go to do this and they're like, "Oh yeah, like I'm very active." Like that I would count that, and I think a lot of people would look at me, Sam Fair, and say I'm very active. But here on this model, very active says hard exercise or sports 6 to 7 days a week. That's not me, to be honest. Like there might have been a time in my life when it was, like I would say when I was going through my real serious rumble craze, I was going 6 days a week, and that's like hard exercise because it was like really intense hit. But that's not my life anymore. It's not realistic for my schedule, let alone my actual body. So I'm going to read you the options, and I want you to say not like what you think you are or what your ideal life is. I want you to say what you actually are, because a lot of us are going to be on the lower end of this spectrum, and I just want you to be realistic. And the problem with it is if you say you're very active, but you're really more like lightly active, then what happens is you give yourself a calorie estimate that you should be hitting that's like way higher than what you should be eating, and then you don't understand why you're gaining weight and gaining fat. So I'm just going to read you the options so you can be honest with yourself about which one you're in. So the lowest one is sedentary. That's little to no exercise in your life. And this could be you're injured. This could be you're sick. This could be you have a condition. This could be you choose not to exercise. I don't recommend it, but whatever. If this is you, you're going to multiply your RMR by 1.2. If you're lightly active, this is light exercise or sports 1 to 3 days per week. So that would be if you like take a yoga class 3 times a week, if you play intramural soccer a couple times a week, if you go to the gym like 2-3 days a week, you will multiply your RMR by 1.375. The third level is moderately active. This is where I fall. So if you think I'm like the peak gym queen of the world, this is where I fall. So be realistic with yourself. Are you higher than this? And I bet you a lot of you are. But I'm just saying a lot of people have this like perception of me that I'm like in the gym 17 hours a week, and I'm not. If you are moderately active, you are doing moderate exercise or sports 3 to 5 days per week. Now, I am on the high end of the spectrum. I probably do moderate exercise 4 to 5 days per week consistently, and then like light stuff on the other days. And sometimes I take a total day off. Yesterday was a rest day. I did nothing. I just lived my life. Anyway, if you're moderately active, which I think is where a lot of us are going to fall, and that's why I'm talking about it for so long. But if you're moderately active, you fall in this category, you're going to multiply your RMR by 1.55. For very active, that's hard exercise or sports 6 to 7 days a week. You're going to multiply your RMR by 1.725. And if you are super active, this is very hard exercise and physical job or double days, like what is it called? 2-a-day training, where you literally hit the gym hard 2 times a day. This would be like literal professional athletes. This would be my friend Ryan, who's a personal trainer, who's insane, who does 2 hard fucking workouts where he's drowning and sweating twice a day, every day. He's like trying to be a professional boxer. Like that would be that. That is not like, even if you're a personal trainer, that's not necessarily you. I know a lot of personal trainers who sit on their ass all day, right? So just be realistic and honest with yourself about what you are. But if you're super active, if you fall in this highest category, you're going to multiply your RMR by 1.9. And I'm not doing this to like bring you down if you are like, oh my God, but like you're saying I'm not active. No, I'm doing you a favor. If you are realistic about how active you are going to be able to calculate more accurate calories and not gain weight by accident that you don't want to be gaining. Right? Okay, you're welcome. So for me, like I said, I'm moderately active, moderate exercise reports 3 to 5 days a week. So I'm multiplying my RMR, which is 1,238.25 by 1.55. And the result of that is 1,919.29. And then your TEF, your TEF, which is the chewing, swallowing, digesting that accounts for 10% of your TDEE, that's actually factored into these energy multipliers already. So luckily we don't have to calculate that separately because I don't even know where to begin with how much energy it takes you to store food in your body. Like, okay, I'm good. Miss me with that. So that was long, and I was trying to be so pedantic because that is the most confusing step, and like I just want to make sure everyone's on it. So to wrap up step 2, my TDEE, or my total daily energy expenditure, is roughly 1,920 calories. So in other words, if I wanted to not gain weight and also not lose weight and just do my normal routine that I do all the time, and I want to stay at the same weight I am at 115 pounds, I should personally be eating 1,920 calories per day. I think for some people that might sound like a lot more than you thought. Like there was a while when it was like, oh, women should eat 1,600 calories a day. I was happy with how I weighed and looked. Like I was good with that. I don't think I needed to lose weight. So I would just say, do this math. If you thought you weren't going to do it and now you're kind of like, oh, maybe I should, go back right now. Go back a couple minutes and listen and do it with me. I think this is really important stuff. That's why I'm like pushing this. So let's move on to step 3, which is really just a combination of steps 1 and 2. You're going to take your maintenance calories and you're going to add to them or remove from them or do nothing to them, depending on your goal. I hear this question all the time, which again is kind of silly because I'm not a trainer, but I just like know things. I'm on the internet. If I want to lose weight, do I have to be in a calorie deficit, which means eating fewer calories than my maintenance calorie number? Here's the tea. Yeah. If you want to lose fat, yes, you need to eat in a calorie deficit. Technically, there are other ways the number on the scale might change, right? Like maybe you were having a digestion issue and you were like totally constipated and then that resolved and you lost like 10 pounds overnight because you like pooped for the first time in 2 weeks. Okay, the number on the scale is going to change and your like fat muscle percentage distribution is not going to change. Or maybe you were like retaining water from a medication you were taking and now you're off the medication and you lost a bunch of water weight. Sure, number on the scale is going to change. Not much else is going to change. And then there are the times when you might look leaner without your actual weight changing if you body recomp, which you don't have to intentionally body recomp. Sometimes your body composition just changes, right? If you are losing fat and building muscle at the same time, you're doing body recomp where your weight isn't changing because you're gaining one and replacing it with the other, but you might look leaner because a pound of fat looks bigger than a pound of muscle, which is a lot denser. But the short answer is yes. To lose weight or to lose fat in the way that most people intend this question, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And with the same caveats, in order to gain weight, you need to be in a caloric surplus. You need to eat more calories than your maintenance calorie number. I do recommend getting a dietitian to get these numbers right for you and for your specific goals because they are professionals. They've been educated. They know your specific health and nutrition and exercise situation. And also some dietitians are literally covered by your insurance. So before you're like, Sam, that's so unrealistic and unattainable. Guess what? Vanessa Rossetto, our queen dietitian who comes on this show and tells us the fucking truth, Kalina Health is something that you can access with certain insurance plans. Okay? So love a dietitian. I know it seems intimidating, but if you are serious about your goals, you will do this. Long story short, eat less than maintenance for weight loss, eat more than maintenance for weight gain. That's it. So we're talking about my goal since we're using me as an example today. But again, feel free to do this next math with your own numbers for your personal goal if you are prepared to do this right now. I want to build muscle. In order to do that, I need to be in a caloric surplus. Most resources online agree that the surplus for muscle gain should be between 200 and 500 calories above maintenance. On the higher end, if you do go 500 calories above maintenance, you are likely or more likely to gain noticeable fat in addition to your muscle, but you might grow your muscles faster. On the lower end, if you go only like 200 calories above maintenance, your muscle growth might be a little bit slower, but you might not gain as much fat simultaneously. So, in my opinion, I would use this range, 200 to 500 calories, as a sliding scale and just like pick a spot where you think you might be comfortable starting out. Since this is my first bulk, I am leaving myself some wiggle room so I don't get like overwhelmed or stressed or like disordery trying to stick to a specific number. And instead, I'm giving myself a window within which I would be comfortable. So for me, like, okay, what is it now? End of November. We're going into winter. Like, I don't mind putting on a little bit of fluff if I need to in order to reach my goals. And I fear that if I say, like, oh, I need to hit this exact number of calories every day, that I'm going to start getting in my head and spiraling and freaking out. So I decided that every day I'm aiming for a minimum of 200 calories above maintenance. But on some days, especially days when I'm doing a workout or a lift, I'm going to allow myself to go all the way up to 500 calories above maintenance. Again, also, like besides just working out, like some people do something called like carb cycling where they will like load up on carbs 1 week or 1 day, depending on their workout plan, and then pull back 1 day or 1 week, depending on their workout plan. Like some people do that. If I'm doing like a big lift, like if I'm doing like a big leg day, sure, that might be a day when I do the full 500 above maintenance. But I also just want to leave room for being realistic about my lifestyle. I travel, I eat at restaurants probably 2 or 3 nights a week. Like, I'm just being honest with myself. Like, I can't exactly measure every single bit of food I'm doing. But if I know for sure with all my other meals that I'm going to be at least 200 calories above maintenance, and then I go a little bit more because I ate out, fine. But like, what I'm not going to do is be less than 200 calories above maintenance because I want to achieve my goals. So, my personal calorie window for my goal of gaining muscle without gaining a ton of fat is between 2,120 calories and 2,420 calories. So, on average, every day, I'm aiming for roughly 2,270 calories per day. That sounds like a lot, right, queens? That's because it is a fucking lot. And yes, I feel nauseated by the amount of food I'm supposed to eat, and I'm just doing my best out here. It's all very new to me, but I'm really liking it. I'm now going to move us on to step 4, which is to calculate your macros, because you do need to do both calories and macros if you're going to achieve this. It can't just be your macros. It can't just be your calories. It has to be both. Just for an abundance of clarity, because I feel like if you're new to this, it's not necessarily intuitive. Macros is short for macronutrients. And macronutrients are very simple, just the main types of nutrients that your body needs in large amounts. So the 3 macros are protein, carbs, and fat. There are things called micronutrients as well, and that is stuff that your body needs in small amounts to function properly, and that's things like essential vitamins and minerals, like, like vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, whatever, iron, zinc, magnesium, like that kind of stuff. But most foods are like a big time made out of protein, carbs, and fat. And those are the things that we're going to track, and those are the things that are going to have the biggest influence on your body composition. If you go to the NASM calorie and macro calculator, it does have an automated version where you input your stats and it spits out numbers of calories and macros for you. But like I said, for whatever reason, I just personally prefer to do it manually so I know every single detail and number is accurate and not a generalization. So luckily, their calorie calculator page actually has a guide that will help you do it manually. We love. So let's start with protein because that just feels like the right place to start because that's what everyone's always talking about. According to NASM, a sedentary or lightly active person needs 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight every day. And a moderate to extremely active person needs 1.4 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight every day. Now, I want to flag that we're saying kilos, we're not saying pounds. And so if you're the kind of person who has heard over and over and over, you need 1 or more gram of protein per pound of body weight. That's not necessarily accurate. So I'd really prefer if you do the math with your kilos weight just to make sure that it's accurate and you're not overdoing it, because I don't want you to have colon cancer. I will say also, looking at these NASM numbers, like the 1 to 1.2 for sedentary, 1.4 to 2.2 for active, it's even a bit higher than some other resources around the internet. But overall, in general, a lot of sources recommend a range of 0.7 grams to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Now, obviously, I'm trying to build muscle and I'm probably on the higher end of the moderately active spectrum. So using this formula, I'm going to go with about 2 grams of protein per kilo. So if you remember from earlier, before my bulk, I weighed 52.3 kilos. So my starting protein goal with this formula would be a minimum of 105 grams of protein per day. So sticking with protein for a sec, that is one way to calculate your macros, is by multiplying grams and your kilos of body weight, and like factoring in your daily activity and your goals. But another way is to go by the recommended percentage. And by that, I mean some professionals, instead of saying that you need to have X grams of whatever kilo of body weight, will say X percent of your daily calories should come from protein. So let's do it that way just to understand like what this range is. So looking at the generally recommended amount of protein percentage-wise, it seems that most reliable sources around the internet recommend that 10 to 35% of your daily calories should come from proteins. And again, since I'm moderately active, I have a goal of building muscle, I will probably aim for around 30% of my daily calories to come from protein. So on the scale of 10 to 35, I'm going for a 30. This is based kind of on vibes. Like, again, I'm not a professional anything. Like, I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not a professional dietitian. And I want to protect my colon because people are overdoing it. So I'm pushing my protein up a bit without trying to like go all the way. Do you know what I mean? So if I calculated my protein goal based on percentage instead of by gram, the math would be as follows. My daily calorie goal is an average of 2,270 calories per day. 30% of those calories is 681 calories. And this next bit is interesting. Protein actually has a standard amount of calories no matter the type of protein. And by that I mean 1 gram of protein has 4 calories. So if you divide 681, which is 30% of my daily calories, by 4, you'll get the number of grams of protein you should have. And if you divide 681 by 4, that's 170.25 grams of protein. Now, you might be wondering, what the fuck? Because my range of protein now is somewhere between 105 grams and 170 grams of protein. And that is a huge window. That's an entire meal. That's actually a big meal. So this is why people have trouble calculating their macros. And this is why I don't trust a random calculator, because we don't know what method or what model they're using. Anyway, based on kind of nothing, I decided to average those numbers to find the middle point, which would be around 137 grams of protein. But even that felt a little bit excessive. And again, like, this is new for me. I'm not used to eating that much protein. I want to like kind of ease into this so that I'm not feeling sick. I'm not bloated. I'm not upsetting my gut microbiome. And yeah, I am a little worried about colon cancer. So personally, I decided to start with about 120 grams of protein per day. As a 115-pound person, 120 grams of protein per day. Now, I won't bore you with all that math again to talk about carbs and fats, but I will give you the recommendations so you can understand like what this macro split might look like. So for carbs, it's recommended they make up 45 to 65% of your daily calories. Harder to find a recommended amount of grams for carbohydrates for whatever reason. A lot of these resources just said the percentage. And just like protein, 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. So for me, if my daily calories are 2,270 and I want to be around the middle part of the 45 to 65% scale, I'll do about 50% of my calories as carbs. So that's 1,362 calories from carbs. Divide that by 4, that is a total of 283 grams of carbs. That is so many carbs again, you guys, and I'm not used to eating that much. So I started out trying to do this, made myself totally ill. I was like completely nauseous all day because my body was just not used to that much food. So I wound up settling at around 250 grams of carbs per day. So far we're at 120 grams of protein and 250 grams of carbs. It's a lot of food. And lastly, for fats, it's recommended to have at least 1 gram of fat per kilo of body weight per day. So if I did that, I'd be eating around 52 grams of fat per day. Or if you want to go by percentage, it's about 20 to 35% of your calorie intake. And 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So 30%, let's do 30% of my calorie intake as fat because I want a booty, guys. I don't want to just be gaining exclusively muscle. I also want a little bit of fat in order to actively and efficiently and effectively grow your glutes. You do need a little bit of extra fat in your diet. So 30% of my 2270 is 681 again. Divide that by 9 calories instead of 4 because fat is 9 calories. That's 75 grams of fat per day. That's a lot. So my fat goal, if you use these two different models, is between 52 and 75 grams. I landed around 65 grams of fat. So now my macro split here and my calorie split is 2,270-ish calories per day. And you can go a little bit above or a little bit below. 120 grams of protein per day, 250 grams of carbs per day, and 65 grams of fat per day. Now, I do want to say I've talked a couple times now about how I felt completely ill trying to make myself eat this much food. And I do want to say that at the beginning of the bulk, it was so hard. I felt sick at every meal. Every bite, I would chew it like 400 times, just like literally not wanting to swallow because I was like, oh my God, this is literally disgusting. And by the end, you hate whatever you're eating. But I am a little bit over 4 weeks into my bulk right now. I have put on almost 1 pound of body weight per week, week over week for 4 weeks. So I'm almost 4 pounds up. And I am ravenous before every meal and I can finish every single meal. And you know what that means? That means I made my metabolism work. If you are going throughout your day and you're like never really hungry and you're like, oh my God, I don't know, I'm just like not really hungry. Like you're saying it like it's a flex, not a flex. Your metabolism doesn't work because you're not giving it enough energy to work. You need your metabolism to work to be healthy. So when you start eating this much food, your metabolism like wakes up. They're like, oh my God, what is all this? I got to blow through it. So your metabolism starts grinding and grinding and grinding. And then guess what? It's got all this momentum. So your metabolism is grinding. You wake up, you're hungry. You can eat that much food. Then you get hungry again for dinner. Your body will adapt to this. So like your first week of eating this much food, if you're not used to it, is going to suck. That's why I recommend instead of going like, yeah, 150 grams of protein, absolutely not. If you're eating like 60 grams of protein right now per day, like that will literally make you feel like absolute shit. And it will probably shock your system and do something bad to your system too. Like I'm not fear mongering, but I don't think it's healthy to just like go from 60 to 150. Do you know what I mean? So like ease in. If you're eating 60 grams of protein per day, which is not enough, but if that's what you're eating, because honestly, if you're a girl who spent most of your life trying to be skinny, you're probably not even hitting 100 grams of protein. You'll be shocked at how hard it is. If you're eating like 60 to 80 grams of protein per day, start at like 80 to 100 grams of protein per day and then go up from there and then go up from there. Do you know what I mean? But it really, like, I did not believe that I would ever be hungry for all this food. I did not believe that my metabolism was broken. I did not believe that my metabolism could get better. I didn't realize it was something you can control. Like people go around saying like, oh, like I just have a good metabolism, or, oh, I just have a bad metabolism. Like I can't lose weight because my metabolism sucks. I can't gain, like I'm so skinny because my metabolism is so good. You can literally control if you have a good metabolism. I mean, I'm sure there are conditions that make that impossible. Like I'm sure thyroid stuff like fucks with it. But I'm just saying like in a normal, healthy individual, you totally can control your metabolism. So like do not be using that as an excuse. Like let's actually get to work. Now, if you're trying to lose weight, your macro ratios might be different. Maybe you do a diet of 20% fat, 45% carbs, 35% protein, whatever. If you want to gain muscle, maybe it looks like mine. If you want to gain weight overall, maybe you up the carbs and the fat. It's all based on your goals and your own body weight and activity level. So that's why I would want you to work with a nutritionist or dietitian or at least a personal trainer if you are really serious about your individual goals. Because not only are these things specific to you, but they also change over time. Like I've already gained 3 or 4 pounds on purpose during this bulk. So like, guess what? If I gain 10 pounds, I should probably redo my macros to make sure that like I'm eating enough protein still to continue gaining weight. None of these numbers are stagnant. Plus, a lot of nutrition, as we all know, is a bit of trial and error. Like, you have to test it out, see how your body reacts, and then proceed from there. This formula, like anything else, is not completely one size fits all. It's just a really solid framework for planning toward achieving your goals. And the truth is, like, I hate to say it because it's hard and it's like monotonous and it's daunting and it's intimidating. But like the only thing that will get you to achieve your goals is consistency. It's discipline. It is showing up. It is keeping promises to yourself. It's saying I'm going to go to the gym 3 times and then going to the gym 3 times. It is saying I'm going to eat 120 grams of protein and getting down 120 grams of protein. That at the end of the day is like the number one thing that you need. And so like without having a target number of calories, target number of protein, target number of carbs and fat, you have nothing to aim for. There's no way for you to be consistent. So that's what this is for, is to give you something to aim for that's consistent. You try it for a week. I would try it for 2 weeks before you decide if you like legit hate it. If you try it for 2 weeks and it feels like way too much, come down a little bit. Do that for 2 more weeks. See how you feel. See if you can go up. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to do what's good for your own body and what feels right. So that, my friends, is the 4 steps to determining your calorie intake and macros. And for the purposes of the episode, the next part is pretty quick, but in real life, this is the hardest and longest part, unfortunately, because calculating your calorie intake and macros is not the end of the road, because now there's the whole daunting thing of how the actual freak do you track your intake of macros and calories throughout the day as you eat them. What do you mean? That seems so hard and like so much work. I'll tell you what, it's an absolute fucking nightmare in the beginning. But once you get the hang of it, you're rocking and rolling. So I think there are 3 things you need to do to absolutely stick to if you're going to realistically be consistent and accurate about your calorie and macro intake. The first one is download an app. I think probably the best 2 that people like the most and use the most. The first one's Macro Factor, and the second one is MyFitnessPal. Unfortunately, on all of these apps, the goals feel a little bit limited or like vague or inaccurate. For example, like most of the apps have 3 goals: weight loss, weight maintenance, and weight gain. Like, I guess for me, it's weight gain because I want to gain muscle. So that's like what I selected. But again, I don't feel like that's a totally accurate picture of what I'm trying to achieve. Anyway, the reason you need the app is because it's exhausting to manually calculate every single calorie you eat and to manually add it all up into a meal, and then to do it for your meal, and then to do it for every single meal and do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. You will spend 3+ hours a day if you're trying to do it manually. But the beauty of the app is you can put in the brand of the food you're eating. It has all the nutrition facts loaded. All you have to do is weigh the food, say how much of the food you're eating, and it tells you the calories and macro breakdown. And then, I mean, like that already saves you so much time. But the real kicker, and like real pros do this, you can, like, say I eat the same breakfast every day, which I basically do is I'll eat a Greek yogurt bowl with nuts and berries and bananas and honey to try to hit a bunch of like carbs and fat as like before I go into my workout, and like a decent amount of protein before I go into my workout in the morning. You can add all that stuff in. So you add all the ingredients separately, but at least it has like your yogurt macros already in because it's from this brand, this Faye that I love, right? Like the 0% I love. The real thing is, after you do that, you can save that meal and be like, this is my protein yogurt bowl. And then if you make the same thing in the same amount every day, you can just select that meal and input it. So then you're literally doing your breakfast in one click of one button in the morning. It saves so much time. So that's why you want an app. Unfortunately, literally all of these cost money. I'm sorry. I don't think there's any way around it. The second thing you need to do and like pretty much stick to is having a food scale. You can get one for $10 or $15 on Amazon. I'm going to link the one that I actually use every single day in the show notes. I measure my food in grams because I feel like this is the most consistent. I measure literally every single thing in grams, especially whole or single ingredient foods, because there's no sticker on the outside of a sweet potato saying, here's how many carbs are in a sweet potato. And so it's huge for counting calories and macros to just have a scale. It's so much easier and so much accurate than trying to do it manually or visually by using the numbers on the packaging, like of your ground beef or whatever. And the worst thing you could do, in my opinion, because you can totally overshoot or undershoot your windows, is typing into ChatGPT, like, how many carbs are in one medium banana. I did that at the beginning and it was like 27, and then I ate a big banana and it was like 45 carbs. And like, again, I've said this a couple times, but like a window in calories, a window in carbs, like that difference can make literally all the difference. So like, what even is that? Just the app and the food scale are clutch. And then this is not mandatory, but I personally am experiencing the opposite and it's bad. So I'm going to recommend this: meal prepping. I have tiny little fridges. I live in New York City. I go to the grocery store every day. A lot of times I am unable to plan what I eat super far in advance. And so what happens to me is I will undershoot or overshoot my window all the fucking time just because I didn't have something in a Tupperware ready to go where I know what the macros are, making it very easy for me to hit my windows. So what you're going to do is you're going to meal prep on whatever fucking day of the week you want. I would say Sundays, and have all your matching Tupperware and be cute about it. Make it your ritual, listen to Caps Lock and meal prep. That's my dream. So you're going to calculate, you're going to make your big meal with all your healthy ingredients, whole foods, ideally ingredients, not the grocery store, but like whole single ingredient, nutritious foods that are not processed. Make your meals, calculate the total number of calories and macros in the total amount that you cooked, and then split it up into Tupperware evenly so you know exactly how much is in each container and it's always the same. So then you're like, maybe the next day you're like, oh shit, I need to hit 60 grams of protein. Well, great news. I know that there are 40 grams of protein in this Tupperware with ground beef and sweet potato. And if I eat this, I'll hit my window. Done. Then you don't need to do what I do, which is race to the grocery store, do the math on how many macros you still need to hit, buy as much as you can, and then end up just eating like plain ass ground beef because you undershot your window by 40 grams and you need to now shove down your throat 40 grams of plain ground beef. That's horrible. Don't recommend. 0 out of 10. Also, it's just easy to reach for on busy days when you're tired of cooking. It helps you start to be able to kind of eyeball your macros so that if there's a time when you're not tracking or you can't track, you can go to a restaurant and be like, okay, that's like probably however many 200 grams of chicken, and that has roughly this many grams of protein, you know? Like, even if you don't know how many proteins off the top of your head, if you can say like that's about 200 grams of chicken, you can go, how many grams of protein are in 200 grams of chicken? Done. Makes your life so much easier. So my 3 things that I think you absolutely need if you're going to be consistent and realistic about tracking your calories and macros: an app. Number 2, a food scale, which can cost literally less than $15. Mine's in the show notes. And number 3, meal prepping. Pro tip: log your food after you measure it, but before you eat it. If you wait till after you eat it and then you're totally full, but you like undershot your window by 20 grams, that's not fun. I've been there. Don't recommend. And that's that on how to calculate your macro and calorie intake for your specific goal, and then also how to track it throughout your day. I know this was a little bit long. I know it was a little bit mathy. I know it was a little bit like pedantic, but if this is something this is it. If you give a fuck about what your body looks and feels like, you will eat and exercise the right way. And if you have a goal in mind, a specific goal, weight loss, weight gain, muscle gain, whatever it is, body recomp, then you need to do this. And I'm just trying to make it easy. So I love you guys. I'm proud of you. This is hard to do. I'll tell you what, when we do the bulking episode, we'll talk a little bit more about the emotional journey and kind of battling those demons of like, I've wanted to be skinny my whole life and now I'm trying to gain weight. And to be honest, it's a little bit triggering. We're conditioned to think that extra couple pounds is bad. That is insane. The number one thing that we can do is take care of our health. And that is what I'm doing. But I'm also really excited to have ripped fucking arms. So if you see me at the gym, yes, you did. If you see me looking jacked at the beach this summer, yes, you did. And if you see me crying in the mirror, no, you fucking didn't. Because we are pushing through the highs and the lows. And I personally think this is worth it. It is worth the discomfort. And in fact, I think the discomfort is going to be good for your mental, emotional growth and your growth as a person. Okay, no outro because I stopped doing those, to be honest. Like, why are we doing that? It's a waste. And I love you guys. And I will see you next week with William. So shoot me a DM if you have any questions for us. And talk soon. Love you.